Hello, this is Angelia with today's Bible reading. You didn't catch me last Tuesday because I've been doing people's taxes. People found out I did my taxes for years. I used to have them done at Wesley House, but they quit doing that for poor people. So I had to start doing my own through the IRS website. So now everybody in my family says, "Hey, will you do my taxes?" So I've been doing taxes. But anyway, I'm here today with today's Bible reading. Which comes from Exodus 22, Sundry laws. Now, before we were talking about the property rights, and that's still something that happens today, unfortunately. But we're going to talk about different laws that they just kind of threw in here in Exodus. And if a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged and lies with her, he must pay a dowry for her to be his wife. Now, that certainly doesn't happen nowadays, does it? But back in the day, if you seduced a virgin, you had to pay. I think that would be good. I would be, having at least a dowry. The wife part might not have worked out, but if her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the dowry for virgins. There were several boyfriends I had that my father did not approve of, so he really didn't approve of the one I married, but that's up to me, isn't it? You shall not allow a sorceress to live. And there are people who consider themselves wizards and witches and things today. The penalty back then was you're gonna die. And even back as recently as the Salem witch trials, that was still on the table. So, whoever lies with an animal shall surely be put to death. And that's because it is a perversion. There are folks who believe whatever you want to do is okay. I don't subscribe to that. Having relationships, sexual relations with anyone or thing that cannot consent and say, yeah. And even if it is someone under the age who says yeah, it's not, in my opinion, a moral choice. Because a child, there's some folks that are saying that's okay, that is not okay. They are not old enough to be of the age of consent mentally, so, until they're capable of critical thinking around the age of, 21 or so, no, you don't got any business messing with them. That's my opinion. And certainly an animal, it cannot consent. So that's a perversion, and it's a sickness. And, you can go to a psychiatrist and hopefully get some help. He who sacrifices to any god other than to the Lord alone shall be utterly destroyed. So if you're sacrificing to God other than God, you're going to be in some trouble. There are schools of thought that say, God is the only God, but he might have thousands of names. And there might be something to that. Only God knows your intention. God knows what the deal is. We don't know, and so you shouldn't be judging everybody in the world based on what you believe, because God knows, you don't know. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him. Okay, there are folks who think that's perfectly cool, perfectly fine. I don't know that. So if you're wronging someone you don't know or oppressing someone you don't know, right there, it's wrong. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And folks tend to forget that, immigrants founded this country, but let's face the facts, this country was not discovered. It was stolen. Christopher Columbus got here. There were millions of people in the USA already here. It's like, how do you discover something that where people's already at? Okay. You landed here, you found it, but you didn't discover it because people was already here, millions of them. So, people don't think about that once upon a time, the Jews were strangers in the land of Egypt. So, you shall not afflict any widow or orphan. And there are people who prey on widows. And, certainly we've heard stories of orphanage and foster care tragedies, so there are sick people like that still nowadays. If you afflict him at all, and if he does cry out to me, I will surely hear his cry. So, again, if you're doing bad by folks, you got to realize you might be getting away with something here on earth. But if they're crying to the Lord, in your judgment day, you're not going to be held innocent by any means. And my anger will be kindled. And that's someone you don't want mad at you is God. And I will kill you with the sword. Again, if you're doing the wrong thing by folks, as the song goes, you can run on for a long time, but sooner or later God's going to cut you down. And your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. So the very people that you are coming against is how your family is going to end up. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, you are not to act as a creditor to him. I have a person in my family, and he says he never lends to anyone. He gives to them because he doesn't know whether they can pay him back, and he don't want that hanging over their head, So he said, I will give you this. You shall not charge him interest. So again, if you borrow from somebody, or lending to somebody, you don't have to be like a bank and charge people interest. That's silly. If you ever take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, you are to return it to him before the sun sets. So, again, you're not to be stealing people's stuff and taking people's stuff because you're doing something nice for them. I mean, that's tit for tat. That's worldliness, For that is his only covering. It is his cloak for his body. What else shall he sleep in? And evidently back in the day, they were sleeping in their cloaks. I've seen some movies, from back in that period, supposedly, portrayed, not that came from that period, lest anyone misunderstand that one, because you don't even know about people nowadays. But anyway, some people wrap themselves up in their cloak and slept in it. And it shall come about that when he cries out to me, I will hear him. So again, whatever you're doing to people, God knows. Like I said, you might get away with stuff for a while, but God knows what you're up to, and he's going to repay you. For I am gracious, and that's how we should be too. He cries out to me, and I will hear him, for I am gracious. You shall not curse God. And man, I hate when I hear people do that and say that word, and I'm like, don't say that word. What is wrong with you? No, don't do it. You're going to bring stuff down on your head. Nor curse a ruler of your people. I think that's a harder one for folks, because everyone's got their own opinion. There's some rulers I don't like, and I'm sure there's been rulers other people don't like, but I try to not go that far. I can say things that I believe are true about them based on their behavior, but you're not supposed to be cursing them. You shall not delay the offering from your harvest and your vintage. So again, like I said, me and my husband, we tithe, and I think that is blessed us, so I feel like everyone should do that. We're not putting out grain and stuff like that today. And if you had a farm and you wanted to do that, I mean, there are food banks and, Dare Care and all that stuff that you could do that if you wanted to. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. And I did dedicate my child to the Lord, my firstborn. He's got the name of Christ bearer. And he was baptized in the church we were going to when he was 8. So, hopefully, that's helped him. He's got some problems, but I think overall he's a really good person, and a really intelligent, loving, decent guy. So, my other kids are too. But you shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. And again, we're not sacrificing oxen and sheep anymore, but like I said, 10th party paycheck. I think that's not unreasonable. It shall be with its mother 7 days. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. And again, this is teaching them sacrifice. This is teaching them sacrifice because God's going to sacrifice his son. But he's teaching them what it feels like to sacrifice in hopes that when the time comes, they'll get it. They'll understand. You shall be holy men to me. So that's what you're supposed to be. Holy men and women. Again, this was written back in the day when women were thought of as chattel. And unfortunately men didn't think women had any intelligence. We were all emotion. But now we know we have both because we have 3 times the connection in our corpus callosum in our brain. So both parts of our brain are talking to each other. So it might look to a man like we're flighty and whatever else, but we got a lot going on up here, and so we're thinking with both sides of our brain at the same time, which they can't do. Most men can't. They have to shift gears. We're like automatics, and they're like stick shifts. So therefore you shall not eat any flesh torn to pieces in the field. And nowadays we would just call that a good practice because of the sanitary issues. If some animal's done slobbered all over it and ripped it to pieces and might have maggots in it, getting ready to hatch out, we don't know. So, that was, I'm sure, a cautionary, don't do this crap. You shall throw it to the dogs. And, the dogs have a better digestive system than we do, so they're liable to not get sick like we would if we're eating, stuff like that, dead stuff out in the field. So that just is common sense right there. Like I say, God's got the most common sense of all. So, so those are some sundry laws laid out in Exodus here. Amen. If you, like to share this word so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me, I'm having a throat day, not good. Even more, please subscribe or go to my Patreon page and become a patron. The link to that is in my posts. Thanks for watching. That's all for now. Until next time.